Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM, the official podcast of Monsters.rent. I'm Justin Lewis.
And I'm Tanner Wayland.
And we are here to help you tell better stories for yourself and your players as you dungeon master sessions of D&D, Dungeons & Dragons. We'd like to give you some quick announcements. We actually have one before the show, and then after the show, if you want to stick around, we have some more announcements then as well. But first, let's talk about this. Tired of being alone? Are you tired of not having any of your players understand you? Are you tired of never truly belonging? Well, you're in luck. All you need to do is join the Guild. The Guild is a unique and exclusive experience that is only open to Dungeon Masters. It is a full community focused on helping ease your DMing burdens. Want to meet other DMs? Join the Guild. Want to discuss your homebrew ideas with people who would appreciate it instead of just telling your cat? Join the Guild. Want to find a place where all your wildest dreams will come true? Join the Guild. Go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free. Wait, that can't be right. Chuck, can you check this again? Is this supposed to be... What? Oh, they're serious? It's free? Oh, okay. All right. Yes, go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free, even though they are crazy for giving this away for free. Common side effects may include burping, sneezing, laughing, breathing, hearing, listening, tasting, farting, critting, sarcasm, and in extreme cases, explosive diarrhea. Awesome. With that out of the way, we can get into today's show. Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM. I'm Justin Lewis, and I'm here with Rob Van Auchen. I said that right?
Yes, you did.
Awesome. And today we are continuing our mini-series on a specific homebrew project that we are making with Rob. And today's going to be a little bit different kind of an episode. For those of you who are new to the show, this is the show where we help you learn how to craft better stories for yourself and your players as you DM sessions of D&D 5e and soon-to-be 1 D&D. That is a huge thing. Yeah. So today, usually we talk about different tips, techniques, practices. Today, we're actually kind of going to get into the making of the sausage, as you will. I'm not huge on that phrase, but that's what we're doing. In showing you how to work on a homebrew project, such as a one-shot or a mini adventure or an encounter, however you want to describe this. But also how to collaborate with someone, so that way, as a DM, you're not just doing it by yourself. You can reach out to other DMs or even players and, take some load off of your shoulders and make it more fun and connect with other people. So, to catch you up, last time we started work on essentially a festival / recruiting event from a guild / academy of adventurers. Because in this organization's recent past, they've lost a fair number of their members, and they are trying to replenish. So the adventure / one-shot will take place in really any city. We want to make this agnostic towards any particular setting. And really the point is to introduce your characters to this academy / guild and have them do trials, tests to see if they get in, and then we'll see what else happens. So let's go away with it. And actually, on that note, Rob, I was thinking, why do we have to limit it to a guild or an academy? We could just say guild / academy, up to the DM's discretion, because really, there's not that much of a difference,
Absolutely. I love that. I think that's a great idea to kind of, or even give them a randomized table to kind of have that decision. Yeah. But exactly. We want to leave the DM some room to wiggle, right?
Yeah. And it'll be awesome to... Although I am particularly partial to Robrick's Academy of Adventuring, the name, maybe we'll put that as, in one of those appendix tables of names for your academy / guild. But I think going that route will probably be a lot better than making us choose. We'll just let them choose.
As I've gained some years under my belt as a DM, I have learned to lean into I've learned to embrace uncertainty, and some of my best moments were when I had no idea what I was going to do. And in those moments, I may have leaned on a random table of, something like as silly as a table of names or a table of, weird things that take place. And so I love providing random tables, anything from, D4s to D100s to just, you need something, roll a die, and you're off and running, right? And I try and make those tables as provocative as possible so that the DM has some wiggle room to kind of insert and do what they want to do.
I love that. So let's go over some of the comments that we both made, starting at the top.
Sure. I also, just for your listeners who can't see what we're looking at right now, and then first of all, this has been a lot of fun, right? So this is my first collaboration with with another DM of any sort outside of like my homebrew groups and whatnot. And for those who are listening, like our tools, like what we're using to collaborate currently has been we've been using Google Docs, which is really simple and straightforward and free for everybody. And some of the templates that we've have borrowed from are from the DM's Guild. Where they have a whole section on creator resources. So if you're a young DM or you're a young game designer and you're looking to get started and writing stuff is part and parcel for your happiness in life, by all means head on over to the DM's Guild and check out some of their creator templates. And my other really great resource has been an organization called Storytellers Collective, or STOCO, as you'll hear me refer to them as, and they have these great sort of learn at your own pace workshops where they provide some templates, but they also provide you really good advice. And so that's kind of been my growth as a writer. And so for those of you who are listening, by all means, check it out. But anyway, back to you.
Storytellers Collective, you said?
Yeah, Storytellers Collective it's cool because they're relatively inexpensive for their courses, and a lot of the ones that they offer are free. But it's kind of like, here's a writing workshop in 30 days, and they give you these sort of projects to do at your own pace over that course, and they attach a Discord to each of them so that as you're working through them, even if they offered a course 3 years ago, you could still hop on a Discord and get somebody who's manning the ship over there to kind of give you some feedback. And they have everything from like creating treasure to creating loot to creating puzzles to how to write your first adventure, how to write your first encounter. And one of the first things I published was with them, and it got published in their anthology, which is nice because they do these things every summer and every spring, and it's a nice way to get your name out there that's attached to sort of a bigger entity to kind of help you into the process.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm actually gonna have to check that out for myself.
I'm looking forward to that. I think they do one in the fall too. I've always contributed to the spring encounter, and the spring one's challenging because it's like a one-page encounter, and it's a lot harder than it sounds. You think one page, oh, that's easy. You wind up chopping out so much of what you want just to get it onto the page. But I digress. Back to our one shot.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, the kind of the way that the the story goes in this one shot adventure is the party members go to this city, or they find themselves in this city. It doesn't really matter how they get there. They're there, and they discover this festival for joining this guild or academy. And originally we thought that there would be like mentors that would be offering trials, kind of like an internship or apprenticeship. Rob made the suggestion that instead we switch it to doing 6 ability score kind of trials and things like that. One thought that I had on that is we definitely need to be very careful in doing that, so that way the trials and feats aren't just dice rolls. Like I get worried that the person goes and does a constitution trial, and all they can do is just a dice roll over and over again. So I guess I want to think of how we can make it so there can be other ways they can like think through certain problems as a player to supplement,
and that's
their dice rolls.
That's a wise decision, actually. sometimes I get so caught up in the mechanism that I sometimes sacrifice the gameplay for half a second. But that's why this collaboration is cool, because you're there
For
to
sure.
check me on those things.
For sure. No, and I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like,
So
reverse.
if in my mind's eye I picture any one of our 6 events structured around any particular ability score, and so what that would look like is there's like a feat of strength trial, or there's a trial of constitution, a trial of dexterity, and the players decide they want to head over there and test their mettle. One of the complications, I can think of a few actually. We can kind of go back to our original idea with not necessarily a mentor, but let's make a really interesting NPC as the host of that particular trial. And maybe that NPC is really accommodating, or maybe that NPC is really antagonistic and sort of, criticizes the players and thinks that they'll fail. And I'm thinking of like the old-fashioned guy at the dunk tank, right? Who, he sits there and you can't, dunk me. And maybe before they throw their dexterity roll to knock the jester into the dunk tank, they have to roll a constitution or charisma save. And if they fail it, there's some kind of, they have to roll with disadvantage, right? So there is some kind of push and pull there. It is a series of dice rolls, but it's also like this role-playing opportunity to, how does your character respond to the jester at the dunk tank? Another complication that we could do is we could have opponents or other people that are applying or attempting the same trial, and thus it's not just simply a matter of, do I get the highest dice roll and defeat this particular trial? Do I defeat the other character's dice rolls, right? And you can also add like an easy, medium, hard opponent, right? So like there's one character who, is going to roll like a DC 5, right? And there's another character who's got your DC 10, but maybe the top character is a DC 15. And so as you're trying to best these other opponents, that is the case. And then my third choice would be, it's not just a dice roll, but it's more like a dice roll tree, so that depending on your roll, there are various outcomes that sort of fork off, and any one particular dice roll can steer you into a series of different mishaps or benefits. So I think those are probably 3 ways to spice this up that excite me when I think about them.
I particularly like number 2 and 3. I think we could, and I see what you mean with kind of your comment, excuse me, your comment going back to, the 1-page competition that you entered in. I see how this can easily blossom into something a little bit too expansive, because I'm like, yeah, we could just make this giant table of all these NPCs, and I'm totally up for it, but I'm worried about like the poor sap on the other end of the paper. But I do like the opponent's idea, because like you said, it's a very good role-playing opportunity where you can point out and say, hey, this one particular guy seems to have your number,
Yeah, and I think, of course, the opponent idea fits better for certain trials, right? So the trial by strength, if we were to say, and we spitfired a couple, but if we produce a randomized table, a D4 table, and one of them is a cart lift and one of them is a fight pit, the fight pit is a perfect example of how to incorporate the opponents, right? It is a little combat heavy, but the idea that, there's 4 guys in a ring doing a sort of like little mini battle royale, and one of them is the DC 5 strength and one is the DC 10, and one is, you could kind of see, but also like, adding opponents, you could watch them interact with each other too. So like the heavy hitter can knock out the lightweight, and then you're stuck with the middle guy, and then, what happens happens. Again, at the DM's discretion.
I really like that. Speaking of the fight pit, the way just how you described it, have you ever heard of Florentine football?
I have not. Tell me more.
So you'll have to look it up. It's like one of the craziest sports that for some reason is still around. It's an Italian thing, and I think it's only like 1 city. There's like 10 teams or something. But essentially, it's football with, and football, like American football, has different rules and stuff. There are running backs, there are grapplers, there are strikers, meaning like pugilists, like punchers, and like you watch it, and you see like people trying to run a ball, and then over in the corner you see two people just like punching each other, and then next to them there are like two people grappling on the ground. It's like the weirdest mix of just like every sport. They're like, let's throw in punchers to football or whatever. Yeah, no, it's like it's insane. But
I feel like I feel a grand finale in my head now.
yeah,
like looking sounding a lot
honestly,
like football.
that might be like the big incursion. Like,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
at a certain point, they're just like, we don't have time, so we're just gonna throw everyone in this pit and everyone duke it out,
Yeah.
which would
Or
be
even like a
kind of
good
funny.
old-fashioned Royal Rumble.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. But I thank you for admitting that you see the scope of this kind of like potentially getting too large, because
For sure.
I have suffered many a dropped project by continuing to build and build and build. And actually, it was I go back to Storytellers Collective. They were the ones who kind of trained my brain to it's better to produce something small than never not to produce at all. And rather than continue to build and get discouraged for young writers out there and young DMs, keep it simple, right? My most complex adventures started from something small, right?
I love that.
Better to really flesh out something narrow, I think, than to cast too wide a net and get lost.
Yeah. To that note then, I think with your kind of bells idea, maybe we might be better with just sticking with like the trials named Trial of Constitution, and so especially if this is geared towards newer DMs. We're trying to kind of bring them in, and again, to your earlier point, I should probably, with some of the tables that I've made, like simplify them down and then put them as like appendices or something like that. So that way it is
options.
a lot more. Yeah. It's a lot more simple.
I don't see anything too wrong with a random table of D8, even D12. I just keeping in mind the rookie DM who, like myself, once upon a time, wanted to do everything.
100%.
And thus decided I'm going to have 8 trials of Constitution in my fair and make them go through every single one of them.
So I think then what we might do is I'll simplify the table down. I'll keep the table in the appendix. I'll simplify it down to just 4, and then say everyone does 2 events no matter what, no matter how many players you have. And then if they want to do more, they can see the appendix.
Actually, you just sparked something that I remembered or forgot, I guess. You just reminded me to circle back to this. On our cover page or on our insert page, it's always nice to provide would-be consumers with the levels for the anticipated party and the amount of time. So, for example, this might be a 4 to 6 hour event or game with level 1 to 5 players, something like that. So our trial should reflect the difficulty of the anticipated player party. And anything above or below that would be at the DM's discretion to enhance the difficulty checks and things of that nature. But I guess in my head, I'm picturing this as a level 4 adventure or encounter, we should say, for a party of 4 to 6. Does that sound right to you?
Level 4. When you say level 4, what do you mean? Like the
party's
at level 4?
I misspoke. A 4-hour adventure for levels 1 through 4, levels
gotcha.
1 through 5. Sorry. Right.
No, yeah, that makes sense. I would definitely say 3 to 4 hour is what I would put it as, especially for the newer DMs, just so that way they're not like, oh gosh, I have to do this for 4 hours. Instead, we can be like, nah, you can stop at 2 if you guys are having fun and that box is checked. I think that's a good idea.
What I really love about this idea is that it's really it's a collection of encounters, right? And for those of you listening, we started as we're going to write an encounter, and then we were like, well, maybe we'll write an adventure, and we've kind of done something in the middle. And this is really episodic. So if you wanted to play, if you had an hour to play with your party, and you want to do one trial, you could do that. I didn't think you could play D&D for an hour, but I was listening to some other live action plays, and it can be done. And I actually tried it. I did 1 hour games. I did about 6 to 7 of them, and it wound up being a really fun activity. So you could do this episodically, or you could sit down for like, the long haul and try and get the entire encounter done at once. But this could very easily fit into a larger module, a larger campaign. What I think is really cool about this is that we've built in a lot of flexibility. So if you have a campaign going and you find that your characters are a few levels behind, and you don't just want to grant them the milestone, you want to kind of have give them some reason to level up, this is a perfect way to have them do that and exercise some skills. And also, it's not just a bunch of combat rolls, right? I love the combat events in my D&D games, but sometimes I find that they can just be a little dry. This is challenging your players to use their other skills in fun and kind of different ways, right? So you might have to use your animal handling ability. You might have to use your stealth at some point, right? So this is kind of cool. I'm digging it.
Awesome. So I think, gosh, there was something else I was going to bring up. Do you think it would be important, just curious, for those DMs who do want to fit this into a larger campaign, and now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm thinking maybe we should just leave it up to them, but do you think we should clearly define or at least give some suggestions as to what benefits they can derive from being in the guild/academy? You get these resources and this that, or do you think we should just leave it up to the DM?
Well, I think yeah. So I so in my what I would imagine doing is that we would give them a setting or a backdrop for this, and I think because now we're going to kind of open that up from a guild, an academy, it could be a den of outlaws, it could be the King's Guard, it could be a multiple of things now, right? But I think the benefits should be in kind of the background for this. So being part of this group or surviving these trials would mean a boon in some way, in terms of getting resources or maps, patrons, fame, glory. If you're playing a campaign of intrigue, maybe you've built some kind of intrigue mechanism, intrigue points into your game, so that your characters have some kind of fame that they can then spend these points for favors in some place. And I like that if you're doing this as an outlaw den and you gain this is an underground kind of set of trials, then you gain favor with some underworld bosses, or you're able to kind of manipulate some crime lord in some way. Or if you're going to do this as a tournament in front of the king and the queen to see who's top dog in the kingdom, you gain access to the king's treasure vault. Or and again, that's a really flexible thing. King's treasure vault, and he's going to fund my next adventure, or I'm going to now steal from the king's treasure vault. Right? Or that they maybe outfit you with that long-awaited suit of armor that you've been dying for. And that's another carrot that the DM might consider, right? If you're playing with a veteran group and things are getting a little flat, what is it that they want, that they've been playing for so long? Do they want to resurrect a character? Do they want to get a sword that's a little bit beyond their level right now? Do they want to map to a place that's been long forgotten? And these are things that you can dangle over them if they decide to engage with these trials and go through them. Right? There's a multitude of reasons that players might want this, and I think it's cool to stick maybe a couple of them in the background.
Sure.
Again, everything's always up to the, so sure, because I'm the dungeon master. For those of you listening, I've got a shirt on that says "Because I'm the dungeon master." That's why.
I love it. I think you're right, and I think we should maybe in the notes somewhere describe as the DM, feel free and add any boons or rewards at the end. I do think that maybe we should dangle the carrot, especially for players that are maybe gold oriented. We say something like the absolute winner of each trial like the top of the top, the very, very best, gets 500 gold pieces. Something obvious, simple, that, would be kind of a general motivator for a lot of players / characters, but that there is a probability that they won't get it just because there's so many contestants and things like that. But
gold is the universal motivator at the gaming table. But I would also encourage DMs to really talk to your players and know your players. So if you've got a player that is, I have a particular character I'm fond of. He's a member of the Order of Scribes, and all he wants to do is collect every spell. Even if he can't cast it, he just wants to be able to collect every spell. And if you have that player at your table, then maybe one of the carrots is a scroll with a really rare spell written on it. Or if you have a druidic character who loves fauna or animals, maybe the character is, an owlbear cub. Maybe they've been dying for a familiar, and oh my gosh, that's the prize. So every great game starts with just a communication between the DM and the player. And obviously I think we should build in some rewards for each of these. But DMs should absolutely feel the flexibility to deviate from whatever we put on paper, just to make their game better.
I agree completely. Kind of switching, tax here. I wanted to get your opinion on the description I wrote for kind of the general trials. I described, and for the listener, the way I described it was you go into this kind of central square area where there's lots of booths set up. It's kind of like a general farmer's market festival. And in the very middle is like a brightly colored tent with a sign above it that says the guild / academy's name. So in this case, Rob Regg's Academy of Adventuring, or, however you want to do it. There are two lines entering. One seems to be just general common folk, and one seems to be candidates or contestants. And you get in line and you enter, and you get to a booth, and there's a lady at the front who kind of looks bored with her life and says, "What do you, what trial are you entering?" Exactly. And she directs you, and as you enter this tent, it's kind of like a Harry Potter effect, where the tent is like huge inside, and the commoners all have kind of seats where they can see the different trials, and you're directed into different compartments within the tent where you do your trial. I wanted to see what you thought about that, Rob.
No, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I think we should also build some like outdoor spaces, but I love this idea of like tent as almost as like an extra dimensional space, right? Like it deceives, and it's way bigger on the inside, and it's almost like this bazaar of places, and it's a mixture of heady smells and raucous voices, and I think that's cool. And I like the two line thing. I think I overlooked that, because now that I'm hearing you say that, I just love that idea of like, here are some spectators, but here are the potential people that you're going to be competing against. And it's a great way for like the players to like, get shouldered by the bully or see the meek character that they might later want to bail out, unbeknownst to them, was a plant by the professors in an attempt to see which of the characters had the most kind of humanity, right? Something like that. There's a million things that would be cool here to do. So I'm totally digging the two lines, and I think the description is awesome, right? It's really cool.
And actually, now that you bring up that, I think in the contestant line might be a great place to, if your characters haven't met, it might be a great place to have them kind of bump into each other, make small talk, and be like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And just kind of be friendly. Or like you said, have them talk to a bully and accidentally like make an enemy or something,
That might be my favorite idea right now, because off record, we've talked a little bit about, I think I sent you an email about my problems with one-shots. I love one-shots, but they're often very contrived in terms of placing the players together, because sometimes the players don't know each other. Sometimes they're playing online. And so it's almost like we always have to force the players to kind of like be best friends right away, just so that we can have this adventure together. I love the idea of the sort of organic, we're all waiting in line to do this thing, and we're edgy, we're on nerves, and maybe you want to find a buddy, or maybe you just want to build your team up really quickly, and it gives the players an opportunity to interact organically in the first 10 or 15 minutes that you're sitting at the gaming table, and right as they're starting to talk and get to know each other and where you're from and hail and hearty, nice sword kind of conversation, that's when the lady at the booth, name and occupation. I think that's awesome. I love that. Anytime you could build some kind of like authentic, organic interaction is always going to, I think, milk the best role playing out of the people at the table. So kudos.
I agree.
That's why you have the podcast.
No, I have a podcast because I was dumb enough to buy a microphone and pay a certain amount of money a week to do it. Kind of even deepening what you were saying, I think it might even be useful to allow them to kind of meet each other and be like, and next to you see so-and-so, and have the players start talking, and then like randomly have like a small group of bullies, like maybe equal to in number or maybe one more than like the party, try and like butt their way to the front or something, and in a sense galvanize the idea of the bullies are the enemies and then the players are all on the same side, whether they intended to or not, and kind of force them to have like a uniquely common enemy. I think that might be useful too.
I love it. That's got to be like the next thing we write on paper, because I don't want to forget it.
Excellent.
Yeah, and they could all be characterized by like, people of privilege. Maybe they're from royal blood or something, and they just want to storm to the front of the line, or give them some commonality. They're all wearing like deep red jergens or something like that, and one of them has to be a cackling bonehead.
Yeah, and they're all, ironically, they're all mimics of the like each party of the bully group is like the same class as one of the. So they're like doppelgangers almost.
Villainous pantomimes of the party itself, right?
Exactly.
So if you got a barbarian, it's a 1-to-1. I love that because then when those players go through the trials and they see their equal, and I had this one idea for like dexterity as being like the good old fashioned like log roll, where you both jump up on a log and like you're pedaling. It's like best out of 5 falls or something like that. And now you're standing on a log with this person, and they're they cheat by throwing some oil on the log or something like that.
Ball bearings like everyone does. I love that.
Oh, I think that's great.
That is a really good
we have fun here.
Yes indeed.
Very cool.
Excellent. So then I think what needs to happen is we need the trials fleshed out a little bit more, which each of us can do kind of on our own.
And again, I don't want to put this out there, and you could absolutely shoot this idea down. But and again, I'm not sure when this will air, but maybe your listeners have some ideas for a trial of strength or intelligence or constitution. Maybe we poll the audience if you have an idea.
That is a really good idea.
Yeah, I think I'd love to hear what some of the constituents are thinking out there, and just I guess to lay it out, right? We are planning 6 trials based around the primary ability scores that are fundamental to most RPG games. If you have a concept for a trial of strength, a trial of dexterity, intelligence, constitution, charisma, wisdom, I think we'd like to hear it. Does that work for you?
I love that.
All right.
Yeah.
You can make that happen in like an email or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put that in the newsletter. I'm not entirely sure how it works when they respond to the newsletter, but
okay.
I'll put it in the newsletter. Yeah, I'll see. One thing I thought also might be cool is to kind of do a competition and like get all the submissions for one specific trial, maybe like the trial of intelligence or something like that, and then put it as a poll of like the ultimate showdown of trials out of these two, which one's better, and
very cool. Yeah. I like that a lot.
I think that's a good idea. Okay,
yeah.
I'll have to write that down.
That's cool. That just kind of came, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but thanks. I'm glad you were
That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So I think then each of us will work on our individual trials, with the caveat that they might get superseded by an even better trial from the audience. And then I think what we need to decide is kind of the incursions at the end. And for the audience, Rob has written down a small table for kind of some possible incursions. So one is a scouting party of ogres, orcs, or wolves, and things like that.
You're running another kind of invasion.
Exactly. Another is a small green dragon, which would kind of be the harder end of the spectrum. And then another is like an offshoot faction from the academy / guild ambushes the fair, kind of like, hey, we're still here. We're we're the cool part, and you can't replace us. Another one is a seismonaut. Is that what it's supposed to?
Yeah, I invented this monster here. And again, I'm not committed to it. I was just trying to think of something, a seismonog or a seismonaut.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. So it's essentially like a giant worm, right?
Yeah.
Or something. Excellent. So just a big monster happens to come into the city. I think those are excellent options. And actually, we might put that to a poll for the audience as well.
Yeah, and I also liked your earlier idea too, that a sort of like battle royale kind of obstacle course that kind of combines everything to kind of make the players, the party, kind of combine together as a team to do this one final thing, which I think works probably the best if we're doing the opponent's route. Right, but again, I want the DMs to have that flexibility to say, yeah, I really wanted this to be sort of like a school / academy setting, so I'm gonna stick with the opponents, or this was really just a break in the larger campaign, and I'm gonna use this incursion at the end here to get back to my main storyline, or maybe your players had just a bunch of lousy rolls and lost all of their trials, and you want one final thing to kind of galvanize them as a group and to kind of make them feel like winners by the end of the encounter in some way, shape, or form. I think that giving the DM that flexibility is a cool idea.
I really like that. So as far as kind of assignments go, it sounds like each of us... Here, let me write this down so I know.
Yep.
And you chime in. Go ahead.
Trials, right? We'll each polish the trials.
Okay. Trials. And then sub-assignment for me is putting them on the newsletter.
Tips.
Yes, tips. Writing some tips. And then I think it would be good if each of us came up with some NPCs, like specifically the bully types, right? So that way, if the DM wanted to, they could use them.
Yeah, and to kind of keep us from going too crazy, if we're going to do like the NPC counter, right? I think we should probably come up with 4 to 6. I think is probably fair.
Exactly.
And then kind of like an independent mission of mine to come up with a couple of interesting NPCs to run each of these trials, but that could go on the back burner for now.
No, I like that idea, and kind of funnel that into polishing the trial itself, as in furnishing it with, NPCs. And I do like the idea of like possible rewards for doing particular ones better. Like maybe with this one you actually get a potion of healing or something like that. But yeah, and even some offbeat things, like we could totally homebrew. You win the potion, you win the trial of strength, and here's a strength potion, right? Or if you're strong, you're probably not very charismatic, so here's a potion that will make you charismatic. Right. We'll come up with something akin to that. I think would be cool. I like that. Maybe we'll just chuck in a bunch of random tables at the back end. Here's the one shot, and then here's an even longer list of appendices. Let's see. Very good. Is there anything? Oh, the table of... Well, I guess that's appendix. Another table. Lol. I think that's like everything really that we need as far as like assignments, unless you see anything else.
No, I think we're still on point, right? So we have a pretty good template, and we've been talking a lot behind the scenes here about what direction we want to go in. I like the idea of maybe stripping away the idea of guild/academy and just kind of offering suggestions to the DM and letting them choose. Because as we were talking and came up with like the Outlaw Den and the King's Tournament, I was like, those are really good ideas too. Yeah. So this encounter, or collection of encounters as it's starting to become, is a solid supplement for new DMs and veteran DMs alike to kind of walk their way into kind of like teaching their players how to play the game. I think this is awesome. This is really cool. I'm happy to be a part of it.
I love it. And honestly, it sounds like a really fun encounter, and I'm excited for when, Rob, you get to host it for us, which would be cool, if you're still up for that.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Hopefully you guys can play. You guys are always the DM. You're the perma DM, right?
Yeah. That would be fun. Yes. Another thing I was just thinking of, just kind of off the top of my head, two things actually. It would be nice... So many appendices. In one of the appendices, maybe we could describe how this might be translated into like different settings. Specifically, thinking of like kind of like a future tech setting, making it so that this would be, like not high fantasy, but kind of similar to Eberron. Some of the things I was thinking of, like how would we make it so that this wouldn't be just,
right,
superseded by technology.
Fair, right? It's not just the Renaissance fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can add some.
And then some options for like, here's how you would make it like a Halloween type theme, or like a Christmas, because I think that would be kind of fun to be like, oh, this is the Yuletide festival, and it's being supplemented by Robrick's Academy of Adventuring, and
hosted by
Exactly. And then the second thing I thought, maybe another another appendix, or maybe we could just point them to the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, just kind of different things to fill the fair with, other than in case their adventurers are like, what kind of meats do they have here, or something like that. But I think those are appendix talk.
Appendix worthy, right?
Yeah. So
what's cooking randomized table.
Exactly. Which is actually kind of making me hungry.
Smell randomized table.
I love that. Right. I love that.
That works perfectly.
Well, thank you for coming again, Rob. Appreciate all your support and really making this fun and easy. Again, this is my first time collaborating on something like this, and my first time building an encounter or one shot in kind of a formal matter that we're looking to publish it. So it's really cool to see the process and think about like the end user. So thank you for sharing your expertise.
This is my pleasure. Thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom with me, and I look forward to continue to build this thing. And I wish I had a good time frame for it, but honestly, I want to just produce the best product that we can, and we'll take it one step at a time. So this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on the show, and hopefully we'll do it again.
Yeah, agreed. And for a listener, everything you need to connect with Rob, as well as catch his other adventure that he has published, which is the Lorecroft collection. I always mess up that last after aft.
No worries.
The Lorecroft collection, which you can purchase on the DM Guild. We'll put the link in the show notes. But actually, the link is betterdungeonmaster.com/Robrick. And make sure to check out all his stuff. It's great. But thank you for being here, and we'll be back next time with another awesome episode. Until then, let's roll initiative. Thank you for listening to today's show. We really appreciate your support and your patronage. We have a few more announcements to go over. First,
did you ever fall in love with the library as a kid? It was a place where you could experience 1,000 stories without having to buy 1,000 books. That is what Monsters at Rent can do for your D&D campaign. You can rent and swap out as many quality miniature monsters and creatures for your D&D party as you could ever want. without having to buy them. You can rescue villagers from a kobold camp, or lead your party through the fighting forest, or many more adventures. We're coming out with new bundles all the time. Just sign up for our subscription to get access to your own personal library of minis. Go to monsters.rent to find out more. That's the website. Monsters, with an S, .rent. Get your library pass to a world of minis today.
We also wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Stardust and Dragons. I'm going to let one of the cast of Stardust and Dragons, Christian Hatcher, and his crew tell you a little bit more about it.
This August, a new adventure podcast is coming to a platform near you, filled with action,
Shoot one of the two of them. We can't keep taking hits like that.
drama,
Everything that she's been doing, everything she's going to do, finally sets in.
and Stardust.
Help! Help! Someone, please!
Find out more about this epic odyssey at stardustanddragons.com, where adventure awaits in the stars.
That's all the announcements we have today. Again, thank you so much for everything you do for us. You make this show possible. Like we said before, we'll be back next week with another great episode, and until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative.